MLS revamping, playing through the winter. The proposal is, and listen, it's been discussed before for years and years. I know that, but it seems that they have some real interest in revisiting the possibility. Essentially, the plan is August to December. You take 5 weeks off through the winter. You come back in action in February to May. So you line up with the European season. We understand the issues with the climate in certain parts of obviously throughout Canada and certainly north of the States as well. Do you like it? Do you think it's got some teeth to it this time around?
Well, if you have those 5 weeks, it's somewhat feasible from a Montreal perspective. Obviously, you'll have some issues until the Olympic Stadium is done up. I think it's another 3, if not 4 years to go. But even if you didn't have the Olympic Stadium, if you played the first 4, 5, 6 games, as you're doing now anyway, as of February, when you take up the championship again away, well, maybe that could happen. Now, in Montreal, the summer months are really when the place is rocking. So I think culturally, you appeal to people who are very, very connected to the European market. I don't know how much you'd alienate people telling them you're coming to the stadium in November, not for a playoff match, but you're going to see Houston Dynamo show up in Montreal on some random November Saturday. That is a bit of a head scratcher for me. But with that gap in between, just in terms of calendars, I think it's way more feasible than what's been proposed in the past.
And summertime, there's more time for your motocross as well, right? So
we haven't had that in Montreal for a bit, I think.
Jimmy, winter season in North America, do you like it?
I don't know. I mean, lining up.
Okay,
with
Craig.
Europe, no, hold on. Lining up with Europe, I think, it is better because you got to look at this league now. There's a lot of foreigners that are coming into this league, and especially a lot of Europeans as well. And our weather in the winter is not as bad as what it used to be. Once you get into October, November, December, maybe January, February, the 2 months that you got to get through. I think maybe the gates would even be a little bit better because in Toronto in the summertime for sporting events, a lot of time everybody's leaving the city during the summer because everybody's going up north. There's a lot of events going on. And I think if they did go to a winter season, I think you'd see a lot more people probably in the stands as well because everybody's around during that time of year.
Yeah. Craig, your thoughts? I mean, I know some of the concerns are, well, you know, we like to have a nice summer's afternoon at the football. And that's what we're kind of used to now. But there were none of those games, by the way, this year in Toronto. They're going to revisit it for next season. I know that. But that's just a short-lived culture of football over here. That can be changed, surely.
Yeah, I think it's just the climate is a major problem. But I think Dubs mentioned maybe in the dark web about playing the Leagues Cup, perhaps, or was that you, Sharms? But playing a Leagues Cup in February or something like that, and then having a bunch of games that we've seen before early on in the season. Sometimes the Toronto FC are playing on the road, so if they have a bunch of road games in February, get themselves to March, they might be able to work that out. But I'm not sure if I agree with Jimmy as far as more fans showing up, but there is other distractions in the summer that could be a factor.
All right, Dubs. Why do you hate it?
Oh, go to Nate first.
Oh, you want the stage to yourself? Okay, Nate. Okay, first of all, Nate.
I feel like you have to heard from Nate.
From a footballer's perspective, Nate, you get to wear gloves and pants at least.
No, I think it makes sense to me, honestly. Watching MLS, I think we got to give MLS more credit where it's at. Like I know people talk about, let's say Schaffelberg, for example, making a move over to Europe to some of these other leagues. MLS is a top league. If you're starting in this league, like you don't have to go anywhere. The players we're bringing over, the quality, the money that's involved, and it's only going up. And to watch meaningful games being played without national team players, watching Copa America and MLS games still going on, like something has to change there. It feels like you guys are looking at it very, from a Canadian perspective, but when you look at the whole market, if they start in August and the Canadian teams, well, not even the Canadian teams, just Montreal, Toronto, the New Yorks, they start on the road a little bit or start at home a little bit. And then in the middle of the season, they go on the road a little longer. Miami, Dallas, Houston, some of these Southern teams, they come north for the beginning, then they're at home for the middle. Summer in Florida is miserable, especially during hurricane season. A lot of lightning delays, a lot of things like this. So you can alleviate that problem. I think you can make it work. I think you can make it make sense. And then one of the big things that MLS needs to do to be considered even more, get more respect around the world, is to win some Champions League. So this allows teams to get started, get their foot in the door, get a second preseason. This is the thing I don't like as a player. 2 preseasons sounds like absolute shit, but but they get like a second preseason in the transfer window, and then that's going to gear them right up into Champions League, right? So there's a lot of positives you can look at, and there's a way to make it work. I mean, the schedulers it would be difficult for them, but I mean, they've already shown that it's difficult with this game yesterday. So yeah, I think you can look at it in a positive way, and I think you can make it work. And I think it's time they join world football, to be honest.
Take that, Dubs.
Yeah,
Good
no,
points.
really good points
Very
for
good
sure.
points.
And I think the transfer window is the big thing. I think like you end up falling short there, where players are forced to make decisions where they have the luxury of not choosing MLS because that window closes, and then they go with a different option. So that obviously, if you're a league, you're a sporting director, you're an owner, that's favorable for the league. And also, to argue against what you thought my point would be, is like from a Montreal standpoint, like the stadium needs work. It needs to be winterized. It needs to be modernized and updated. And maybe this encourages the city and the club to maybe spearhead this and really put a lot of money in it, but they need to kind of avail themselves and kind of free up the link with the city because they don't own that land. So if they improve the stadium, then they're going to be taxed further, and that works against the club. But I just think it contributes more, like the Motorcross incident, where the Canadian MLS franchises are treated as an afterthought. And you could also even argue that the Northeastern or like the more Northern franchises as well, like your Minnesotas, for example. So I don't know. I think there needs to be a way where you focus on the players. I think aligning with the FIFA international windows makes the league more credible. I think it makes more sense. But I think we need to lose the notion that we need to align with Europe to get more credibility. Like, I don't think that is necessarily the way to do it. But I think we have to figure out a way in MLS, I'm saying we, North America, in like to do something to capitalize on the World Cup in 2026. I'm worried that it's going to be a one-off, and that MLS, aside from the Messi effect, isn't going to see the bump that they hope to see from it.
Asa, I mean, Vancouver is perfect, right?
Yeah, I think the weather's okay. You have a retractable roof for BC Place, so I think it makes sense. And then it aligns as well with the local season as well. The kids play, everyone plays here, sort of September till April. So that, it aligns with the soccer culture here in BC. And I think it makes sense. And Nate made some really good points as well. Just, I guess, improving the credibility of the league, which is something that they've desperately been trying to do for years now. So I think, it's a move that needs to be seriously considered here. And you guys all made the great points. So I'm not going to take up any more of your time.
But Dubs, I mean, I'm not saying that we haven't got credibility here. We do, obviously, and the league's getting better and better every year. It's a strong league, as Nate mentioned there. But it still lacks something, right? It's still looked upon from the lens of Europe as being a lesser league. Now, that's, Eurocentrism, I understand that. But the bottom line is that is where the money is. That is where most of the eyeballs are coming from as well. I think it is affected playing over the summer months. It does affect the credibility. Do you not see that at all?
No, I do see it for sure. But I think what this comes down to, like the league saying this impacts the entire ecosystem, but at the same time, their focus is on making money. And with this Apple deal, they, generating more games, that's how you get the Leagues Cup. That's how you get that month-long break in the middle of the season here. That's how you get all these extra games, and they're doing it for the almighty dollar. So I think player welfare needs to be first, but I also think you need to pivot away from the fact that we need approval from Europe. Like, I think it's not just that, it's not one or the other, but there's also a way that we can innovate and be different and be distinctive and not necessarily always align ourselves with Europe because we think that's the way, that's the pathway to credibility worldwide for football.
Jimmy, if MLS does it, does the CPL and NSL have to follow suit as well? Or is that actually going to give them an opportunity to play their season throughout the summer and own that soccer market?
I don't think they'll change. the CPL. I think the CPL will continue doing and marching the way that they want to. I don't think anything the MLS does is going to influence their decisions. I think they're in a good spot right now, the CPL. But it's also difficult for them too, because a lot of the clubs, they don't own their own stadiums. They're all community stadiums, and some are grass. And trying to play in the winter in Calgary, I can't really see that happening. So I think they've got a lot of issues to even think about changing into a winter league. I think what they've got right now is very good, and I like what they're doing.
I think the way that the Leagues Cup will kind of be reshuffled and it'll be worked into kind of the beginning of that calendar year. I think that's what they talked about in that Athletic article. But I'm worried now, like the focus is on, yes, aligning with Europe. It might make you more credible in the long run, but it's also a moneymaker for MLS and Apple. What happens to the US Open Cup and to the Canadian Championship? That's usually when those games are worked in. And to me, the priority on that, along with the Canadian MLS franchises, is very, very low.
That's a good point. But I mean, the Champions Cup, CONCACAF Champions League Cup, whatever you call it these days, I mean, that's not perfect either, right? These teams are playing without having a preseason, and they kind of, it's clunky. They force it in there, right? But yeah, it's not
Like
perfect.
you and Tony. Sorry.
Okay, Wonger.
I know. I'm filling the shoes apparently.
But okay, listen. This will be going on, I think, for a while now. I find it really interesting. We'll get some CPL and NSL head honchos on at some point and ask them their thoughts, Nate. But staying with the CPL, Nate, as you know, you got a big match coming up. Pretty big match. York, Ottawa. Having seen York win last night, their first ever playoff win, actually, at home, no less. We know what happened last time you guys met. It's becoming something, that rivalry. Is this a match you're now salivating over? How much do you hate these guys, by the way?
Oh, you know me, buddy. I don't hate anyone.
Unless you form a club.
No, it felt, I don't know. Honestly, to me, I know Pacific's form was good going into playoffs, and I think York had struggled there in the last couple, but it felt like it was always going to be York. I think it's good for the neutral. I think it's going to be a lot more exciting game. I think they're going to come out and try and get after us, and being at home, I think we're going to do the same with them. Yeah, there were fireworks last game from the sideline. Obviously, there's a red card. So we'll see. We'll see if everyone remembers that. People are definitely going to be talking about it in the media this week. It's already started. But our job is to worry about the football, and it'll be my job, along with our coaching staff and the other leaders, to just kind of make sure cooler heads prevail, make sure we do the job on the field, and whether it was York or Pacific, they both kind of come with their different challenges, and it's gonna be a tough game no matter what. So
you play so many games against the other oppositions. Isn't there like a rivalry between the teams anyway, just by nature?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You spend too much time with anyone, whether it's family, whether it's opponents, and it gets a little
podcast friends.
No, 100%, and that's just how it's going to be, and we're going to see that in NSL as well. But it'll be interesting to see how the coaches deal with each other. I think that's what most of the talk's about right now. And again, just trying to, it's just important for us to win. I think we need to win at home. I think we deserve, our fans deserve to see a home playoff win that we gave them 2 years ago, and we had a little hiatus last year. So doing it for them, doing it for the new group of players, and we want another shot at Forge and Calvary.
If there was a fight between Carlos Gonzalez and Benjamin Mora, who would win that fight?
I don't know. I would love to hear Jimmy's take on this.
That's a pro broadcaster right there. Deflect.
Yeah, exactly. I think they should make them arm wrestle before the match.
Yeah.
League should make a mandatory. You two, come on, let's get it other way. Arm wrestle.
Yeah. Maybe in lieu of penalties, have the coaches have an arm wrestle. And that's see who moves on. That could be a good solution. Now your last knockout game for Ottawa, now your comments post-match were strong, to the very least. He said it wasn't good enough. We've got to be better. Have you revisited those comments in the room since the regular season ended?
Are you referring to last regular season?
Yeah, was it last? Yeah, I forget when exactly it was.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it was the last regular season when we played York away, and
right.
we needed a win to go through the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, listen, we revisited that in the off season. I think we got rid of 15 players or something, and it wasn't and that's front office decision because of what they saw on the pitch. And it's not like those conversations we had in the locker room, right? It came from coaches, it came from captains, it came from everywhere. Like, we're dealing with those things internally. When that interview happened, it was it was over. There was nothing left to do. That was the last kind of gasp. Was like, all right, well, let's put it out there and see if we get a response then, because at that point we were 8 or 9 without a win, and nothing we had tried worked, right? Mm-hmm. And that was a little bit of frustration, but it's not like I didn't know what I was doing. It was just one last chance for players to hear it a different way, I suppose. And we ended up winning our last game, but it didn't matter. That has nothing to do with this year. It's just such a different locker room. There's so much demand. People, like, the internal pressure the players in this group put on themselves is way higher than anything I could say to them or anything the coach could say to them, and that's why we've had success. And the fact we finished third, I know it's one of those years where you start out so well and you end up dropping down to third, but the reality is it's a brand new team. We're trying to get it all work together, and we were a non-playoff team last year, so we did have a good season. It's just the way it happened. The perspective just hurts a little more, where you're just like, oh, well, if we started a bit slow and then we were flying towards the end of the year, everyone would be buzzing. And the reality was we started hot and then we went through our struggles. So I don't think we should read too much into that. I think those are just normal things. And in the order that they happened, just made it a little bit tougher for us. A little bit more pressure from the media, a little bit more pressure from the fans, and then obviously front office and coaching. But you got to keep the guys, kind of calm about it and just go like, yeah, we were always going to lose games. We weren't going to go undefeated. It's just the reality of professional football. These things happen. And then we found form again. We haven't lost in a while. Our one loss in the last 10, I believe, was away to York, but a red card in the 20th minute. And we were just defending like warriors, to be honest, and a bit unlucky not to get out 0-0. So yeah, it's a completely different team. I don't think about that much at all, or haven't at all. It's more about how to motivate this group.
You started off, you mentioned this so well during the season, and then is it a difficult time, or did the other teams just sort of get more familiar with you and discover ways to compete against Ottawa?
Yeah, definitely. People would throw different things at us, right? But one thing I learned from Jimmy when I was playing for him actually was just how hard it is to pick up points later in the season. Like, if you can bank points early, how much that means. I think we took it for granted. Once you get later, teams get better. Styles change. Teams that are fighting for a playoff spot will just get more defensive against top teams and just hope for a set piece or hope for sneaking one. You start dealing with suspensions. You start dealing with injuries. You start dealing with the wear and tear of 28 games. And again, I don't know. It didn't feel like we were taking it for granted. Like, we were still showing up and doing the work every day. But looking back on it, yeah, maybe you could make that argument where it's like, oh, we just thought it would never end. The party wasn't going to stop. And then, yeah, you lose 3 in a row and you go, oh, teams are catching up, and it's a bit of a reality check. So, and you know what it's like when things start going poorly, it seems so much harder to get them back. I think teams need to go through difficult times like that to build the character to be able to deal with a playoff run. So we're trying to look at it as a positive. I know I am. And you just got you can look around the room and you could tell, like, it's a hardened group of players. Like, even though we're new together, we've been through some stuff together. And we're building, of course, to win it this year, but we're also building into next year because with this many new signings, they're always on multi-year deals, right? So we're building for, at the beginning of this year, we're hoping to be contenders, get into the playoffs, make a run. And then the goal is to win it, obviously. And next year is to go win the double. So everything we do from here on out is not only for this year, but building into next year.
Hey, Nate, you're talking about styles changing. I heard pregame, so like your walkout or like the pregame fashion show as they do in different leagues. You showed up in some pretty sweet swag.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the pictures yet, though. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I can. I was repping our new sisters in the city, which we're pretty excited about. I was able to sit down with Tom and Steph this week, the CEO and the COO, separately, just kind of say, hey, what's up? Welcome to the city. Steph's been here forever, but Tom's making the move from Toronto, something I did a few years ago. So had him at one of our restaurants for lunch, and I'm fascinated with startups. I was a part of a new club in the PDL with KW United, and it was an amazing project. We had a men's and women's team. We won the North American Championship in our 3rd year. Was really cool to be a part of that. I was part of the startup with Jimmy in the CPL. And I feel like just somehow in my career, even my university was a newer program. I just kind of keep getting in these startup situations, and it's really difficult. And I just want to kind of say hi, welcome to the city. If if you're doing an event, shoot me a text. I'll pop in, say hi. Even if you want to go a nice place for dinner, let me know. I'll tell you where to go. Just letting them know. We already share our facility with so many people with the Red Blacks and stuff. I'm friends with a bunch of players on that team in the off season. We're always in the gym together. We have these like great relationships, so it's just kind of welcoming them in. And even the 67s, they're funny little guys, and PWHLs made themselves at home in the place as well. So it's we got a cool family in Ottawa. So just and they're about to join.
Have the Rapids signed any players yet, Dubs? I haven't noticed. Has it been announced?
No, they have not. They announced their head coach. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but they'll be coming, I'm sure, pretty soon. But so Montreal, 2 signings after we made fun of you for missing out on the first signing there, Dubs. You made 2 later that day.
Mm-hmm. So, just to make up for not being the first, we did 2.
Didn't see you in the photo shoots though, Dubs, as the extremely important advisor. I thought you'd be in there, but you weren't.
That's right. I'm special advisor. I should be in every photo shoot.
You are special. That is for sure.
Short bus.